Today's daf. We just started Masechet Bava Kamma. It's a very exciting new beginning. And today's daf is daf Gimel, the second day after daf Bet. And if you recall, we're smack in the middle of a Gemara Sugya, where our Mishnah said that there are four avot nizikin. There are four types of nizikin. Rashi said, the first Rashi in the Masechet, that they're called avot because they are written in the Torah explicitly. Now, if you look through Parshat Mishpatim, where most of this comes from, the Torah talks about many different ways of damage, and we're going to learn all of them, many of them immediately, but all of them eventually. And we're going to see how we get these four. But the four we had in our Mishnah were shor, which refers to an animal causing damage, bor, which is a pit that you make or an object that causes damage. It could be in the ground, above the ground. What's called ma'aveh, which we didn't exactly translate in the Mishnah. We have a machloket later today about what that means, and hever, which means fire. So we said that the question we asked was Rav Papa made a statement that we asked whether the toldot, I'm just getting an introduction here, whether the toldot, if you say there's an av, it means that there's a tolda, right? If you say that there's something that is described as the type, and that's what the Torah means, it means that there's further things that are included that are considered to be secondary. And the question was, like we started discussing this yesterday, right? We said that, for example, a shor can do damage in three different ways, at least in the Torah. A keren, which is the horn, regel, which is the foot, and shein, which is their teeth. Now, those are not just three different parts of an animal's body, right? Because animal has plenty other parts in their body. It's three different ways an animal does damage. I'm giving away a lot of today's daf, but why not? Do it for free. So shor, a keren is a horn, but we think of a horn as a way that an animal does damage with intent to do damage. Because the assumption is that an animal has to lower their horns and charge at you in order to attack you. And so a horn is a type of damage done by an animal that is done with intent, right? And so we said yesterday that a tolda of keren would be if an animal went over and kicked you, right? Because even though it's called regel, it's not what we mean by regel. That is shein. That is not shein. That is keren, right? Keren means it goes and basically the animal's angry and it kicks you, or the animal sits down on you because sits down on an object or on a thing because it's annoyed, let's say. That's all a tolda of keren. Shein is eating. And the unique thing about eating is that you usually eat because you want the food, right? So generally when a cow gores a person, it gets no benefit from that. Or if you punch someone in the face, even though it feels satisfying, right? You get no benefit. But eating has to give benefit. And so we're going to see today that a tolda of shein is, let's say an animal goes and takes a really nice hot shower in your shower, right? That is a benefit, but obviously can cause damage, right? The example the Gemara gives is not that. It's that the animal goes to scratch its back against your car and breaks your car, right? But the animal's doing it not because it wants to break your car, but because it wants to scratch its back. It just happens to weigh too much. And the third category was regel, which is basically damage that an animal does as it walks, which is done, it's called derech hilucha, as it walks, meaning it doesn't do anything out of its way, out of its ordinary in order to do damage. And we'll see today that a tolda of that, for example, might be if its tail, it's walking down the road and its tail drags something, but it's not, going out of its way. So we asked yesterday, are those toldot chayav like the avot? And we said, is it like Shabbos, where in Shabbos, the tolda on Shabbos is chayav like the av? Or is it like Tumah, where the tolda is not like the av? And Rav Papa said, well, it depends. Some are and some aren't. And we're trying to figure out which ones are not. And so far, we started with the keren, and said that keren, the toldot of keren presumably are the same as keren itself, and therefore you should be chayav, right? And so we are up to, I believe, the top line on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, Amar Mar, right? I think that's what we're up to. Is that what we're up to? Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go back. Sorry. I'm a bet. Let's do 3 lines on the bottom. 4 lines on the bottom. Shein v'regel hechiktivi. How do we have a reference in the Torah to the chiyuv of an animal using its mouth, meaning biting, eating, and regel walking on something that you're chayiv? The Tanya. The Braita says, There's a very interesting pasuk in Mishpatim. It says, "V'shalach et bi'iro u'bi'er b'stei acher." Right? The animal bi'er means you sent your animal, and it went and ate in someone else's field. But it doesn't say ate; it says bi'er, which literally means it animaled in someone else's field. Right? What does that mean? Acted like an animal. Right? So it says the Braita, "V'shalach" refers to regel, meaning you sent your animal out, you sent your irresponsibly to walk through the middle of the street where someone is blowing glass and stepped on all the glass, so it broke the glass. And the pasuk says, right, that you sent out the feet of the shor and the chamar. Ubi'er, it says, then it acted like an animal. Zehashem, that refers to the teeth. Omer, kasher yivaer hagalal ad tumo, as you eat something up until it's destroyed, until it goes inside your body, right? Says Gemara now, Amar. Now let's try to analyze this drasha from the Braita. It says Vishalach zu haregel, right? Vishalach it's bi'iro. Zu haregel, right? What does that mean? It says Gemara, well, the implication of that is, second line, time of the Katav Rachmanan mishalchei regel shar v'chamar. It's only because you have another verse, right, in Yeshayahu, that says that mishalchei refers to the foot of a shar and a chamar. Halav hachi. If I didn't have that pasuk, then my mukbatla, what would I have explained this pasuk? Right, I would have said you sent your animal out. What kind of damage is that referring to? So you're telling me from a pasuk, I know it refers to their foot. But let's say you didn't have that pasuk. How would you have understood this pasuk in Mishpatim? In Karen, then we already said Karen. Remember yesterday we used the pasuk of ki yigach, right, or yigaf, all right, a shar. They already gore. Ishain. Remember, the end of the pasuk is shame, right? It's bi'er b'stei acher. That means mouth. That means eating. Says more itzrich, but still, you need a pasuk to explain that a foot would be chayiv. If we didn't have the word that explained that v'shilach always refers to walking, I would have thought that when it says v'shilach et be'iro, it means the animal went and ate. The next part of the pasuk also means the animal ate. So I didn't two psukim about shame. Says where, because you would have thought there's two different kinds of eating that are chayiv. One is ha-michal yakarna, ha-lo michal yakarna. One is where you eat the object and you finish it. And one is where you eat the object and you don't finish it, right? One is where, you go and you eat the fruits and he eats the whole thing, right? And the other, and so you might have thought, okay, there you're chayiv. What if an animal goes and starts taking bites out of your food, but leaves some of it behind? So they ruined it or they diminished its value, but they didn't eat the whole thing. So you wouldn't necessarily know that the animal would be chayiv there. Kamash malan, perhaps, that you need two psukim, that you're chayiv for eating if they eat the whole thing, and you're chayiv for eating even if they don't eat the whole thing. So that's what I would have thought. Now, therefore, said the Braita, it's not referring to two types of eating. It's referring to one type of eating and one type of regel, right? Regel and shame. Says Gemara, okay, but if that's true, hashadu kimna a regel, right? How now that you said the pasuk is in fact telling you that the animal is walking and causing damage as it walks, right? Shame de la mechal yakarna minala. So yeah, it's a good question. How do I know two types of shame? Maybe the fact is you're only chayiv for shame if it actually eats the whole thing up. How do you chayiv even if it doesn't eat the whole thing up? There's a whole other shot in what exactly it means, but I'm gonna just leave it simply. Says the Gemara, well, the answer is dumya de regel, because this pasuk clearly combines, right, the halacha of regel, of walking, and the halacha of shame, of eating. And so you can understand that those are comparable. How are they comparable? Ma regel, just like if an animal is walking and stomps on your vegetables or stomps on your lawn or your fruit or whatever, you're chayav lo shna mechal yakarna, lo shna lo mechal yakarna. You're chayav regardless of whether it destroyed the thing or didn't destroy the thing, right? Because there's no connection. It doesn't matter. It's not eating the thing. It's just walking. Av Shane, so too, I learned from Shane. Excuse me. Av Shane, lo shna mechal yakarna, lo shna lo mechal yakarna. It wouldn't matter whether you ate the whole thing or didn't eat the whole thing, you would be chayav. And so therefore, we learn from this one pasuk that you sent your animal out and it walked and caused damage, you have to pay. And the animal went to the field and caused damage, which means it ate in the field, you have to pay. So that's regel and shame. Amar Mar. Now let's read the second part of the Braita. Ubi er zu hashem. And we learned that from a pasuk. B'cheinu Omer. It says in Melachim, Ka'asher yivaer hagalal ad tumo. Right, until you eat the whole thing. Again, it's I'm alluding why this pasuk exactly means mouth, but Rashi understands that the galal is the lips, right? So that you are basically revealing your lips until you eat the whole thing. So time of the katav rachmana kasher yivaer hagalal ad tumo. The only reason we know that this pasuk is referring to an animal eating in a field is because we have this reference in Melachim. Halav hachi b'mayokim nalei. How would I have understood the Torah saying that your animal went out and caused damage? What kind of damage? Again, the same question we had before. Eat Karen, if it caused damage by goring and attacking, we already know you're chayiv because Ketiv, it already says that. It says ki yigach. E regel, if it's damaged by walking and stomping on something, we also learned that already. Ketiv, we already learned that from the first part of the pasuk of vishilach at be'ero. So says Marwal Itzdrach, I still need to tell you that this ubi'er b'steacher refers to eating. Because I actually might have thought that there's two kinds of regel that you're chayav for. What are two different kinds of regel? One is where am I? The azal memela hadishalach shluchi. One is if you tell your animal, which you know how to do as an animal owner and guide, go this direction. So maybe there you're chayav. But what if you're just negligent? You leave your animal, and your animal decides, I want to walk west. And on its way walking west, it steps on somebody's, fruits and breaks them. You might not have thought that you're chayav in that case. You might have thought you're only chayav if you direct your animal to go a certain way, and therefore it's sort of acting under your direction, right? So you might have thought, where am I? One is where it went on its own, and one is where you sent it. So Kamash Malan, that's not the case. You don't need two psukim for regel. One pasuk is for regel, and one pasuk is for shame. Says what? Again, the same exact question. But if potentially you needed two psukim, and we don't have two psukim, how do you know both types of regel, right? Hashla de ukiya shame. So since we said the pasuk is referring to shame, so there's only one pasuk for regel. How do you know both types of regel? So I understand a regel that I send the animal on its way, I, the owner, am chayav. But regel de azla memela minalan, if it caused damage with its feet just by walking on its own accord, how do I know that you're also chayav? Says well, because dumya de shame, just like an animal eating, right? Just like mashane, there's no reason to think there'd be a difference whether you told your animal to go eat from someone else's field or just got hungry and went and ate. Loshna shalcha shluchi, loshna da'azal memela. Af regel, so too, again, it's because one pasuk refers to both regel in the beginning and shane in the end. We compare them. And just like by shane, it wouldn't matter whether you directed it to eat or not. So too by regel, loshna shluchi shalcha shluchi, loshna azla memela. Okay, says Gemara, that's very nice. But why didn't the pasuk just say lichta rachmana v'shilach? Why can the Torah just say the word v'shilach? Right, the lo by ubi'er. I don't actually need the word ubi'er because that can be mashma regel, mashma shame. The word shilach can refer to both eating and stepping and stomping on something. How do I know that? Mashma regel, which we already proved, dichtiv, from the pasuk in Yeshayo, mishalche regel hashar v'achamar. So that we know. The word v'shilach refers to going out and stepping on something. But how do you know it's mashma shame? It's also mashma, you go out and you eat something. Dichtiv, because there's a new pasuk, which we didn't have before yet. V'shein behemot ashalachbam. The teeth of the animals I will send to you in them, I guess. So again, you see that the word vishilach can refer to going out and eating. So why in the world do you need two psukim? Why do you need a pasuk that says vishalachet beiro ubi'er b'steacher? Just say vishalachet beiro, and I'll understand it means two kinds of action: eating and regel, shane and regel. Says the Gemara, no, because you can't learn two things from one pasuk. Ilav krayitera. If you didn't have an extra verse, a second verse, second word in the verse, hava amina, I would have thought to say oha, that you can be mechayev for one, but not both. Either o regel de hazeko matzoy. I would have said maybe it's regel because it's very common for an animal that's walking along to break things, right? That's why we don't have animals walking in the middle of the street. We don't have animals walking anywhere, but why they didn't have animals walking, right? Because it's hezek is matsui, it's common to break. Oh, shame, hazeko. Or you would have thought maybe it's actually referring to animal eating it, because animals really like to do that because they get a lot of enjoyment out of eating someone else's food. And so michti, you would have said, look, shkulinheim, there's two possible requirements, two possible chiyuvim in an animal, but we only have one pasuk, right? And so I might have thought, this questioning, right? So I sorry, before the word michti. So the answer was, if I had one pasuk, I would have said only one of them, not both of them. And so therefore, even though the word v'shilach can refer to both an animal walking and causing damage or an animal eating and causing damage, we wouldn't assume it's referring to both. So therefore, if you only had one pasuk of a shilach, I would have only been mechayiv one type of action of an animal. Ask the Gemara now at the start. Michti, shkulinheim, they're identical. If you have two identical things and you can't decide, what should you do? You say, I can't choose. You get them both. It's like when you go to get ice cream, right? If you have two identical categories, you should say yavo shnehem. You should say that they are both included in the pasuk, the haiminayo mafkis. Which one are you going to exclude? So since you have no logical way to exclude one over the other, an intelligent person reading this pasuk would have said, this could refer to two things. There's no way to know which one it refers to, and therefore the Torah is clearly trying to tell us both. So we're back to our original question. Why did we have a second word in the pasuk? It said, V'shilach et be'ero, you sent your animal. I would have learned from that you either sent your animal to walk and cause damage, or you sent your animal to eat and cause damage, because the word v'shilach refers to both walking and eating. So why do you need a second pasuk of bi'er b'sidei acher? Says the Gemara, you do. You need the second pasuk. I would have thought that both of them, eating and walking, are only hanimili hechadashal shluchi. It's only if you are shilach, you send your animal forth. You say, go forth, go west, right? Aval azla mimela lo. If the animal is not v'shilach, it just, you don't lock the gate. Your animal just walks away and either steps on something or eats something. I would have thought you're not chayiv at all, because we use the verb of v'shilach, which implies you sent it. Kamash malan, that it's not just when you send it. It's even if it causes damage without you directing it, because you're responsible to watch your animal. So that is the beginning, the intro to today's daf, long intro, right? So that's how we know that by a shor, you're not only chayiv what we learned yesterday, which is Karen, you're also chayiv for Shane if the animal eats something, and you're chayiv regel if the animal walks on something. So now, says the Gemara, let's go back and try to understand what is the tolda, what is the derivative of these avot of damage. So two dots, right? The two dots, 2/3 of the way down on Daf Gimel and Aleph. Tolda de Shane Mahi. What would be a tolda, right? So the av of Shane is an animal walks in and eats something. What's a tolda of that? Says the Gemara, it's things like nit chakika bikota lahanata. The animal had a big scratch, had a big, a lot of flies on its back. And it went over to the wall to scratch its back. Now, when it went to scratch its back on the wall, it knocked over the wall and caused a lot of damage. But it did damage in the act of enjoying itself, which is the equivalent to eating something, right? So that's a tolda of shame. Or let's say the animal had to go to the bathroom, right? V'tinfa perot lahanata. So it went over and squatted down and went to the bathroom on your fruit. So it damaged the fruit by enjoying itself, by relieving itself, right? It didn't actually eat anything, right? But it got benefit in the act of damage. So it says, those are toldot. Why would those not be just as chayav as the avot? So Maishna Shem, why is it different? The av, which is eating something, and again, this is critical to remember. What is the category of shame? The yesh hana'a lehazika. It gets benefit when it does the damage. And of course, you're the owner. It's your cow or your animal. You have to watch it. Haninami. So these toldot also, if they have yesh hana'a lehazika, they get benefit when they're doing the damage, and Mimoncha Shmiratan Alecha, you should be chayav. So remember, if Papa said there are some toldot that are not like the avot, but can't be tolda of Shane, and tolda because tolda of Shane should be chayav just like Shane, because you have all the criteria. You eat it, you enjoy it, and you own it. Okay, or the animal enjoys it. Ella tolda de Shane kishain. You know what? Just like we said by Karen, which is an animal causes damage, wants to cause damage. If it causes damage by goring or by kicking or by spitting, all of those are toldot and they are chayav. A tolda of Shane is also chayav like Shane. The chi kamma of Papa, the third case, a tolda de regel, right? Remember, regel is an animal that causes damage as it walks. What's a tolda de regel, Mahi? What's a tolda of regel? Not the feet. Holcha hezika bigufa. Let's say animal's walking down the street and its body causes damage, derech hilucha, as it's walking, right? It didn't go out of its way like a goring animal to cause damage. It's walking down the street, but on its way it's walks through a narrow area and it knocks down your cart. Or bisara derech hilucha, or its hair, right? The hair can cause a lot of damage as it's walking. Or b'shlif she'aleh. Shlif is a saddle, I think. So if someone's English, they could translate.
I believe you.
Okay, I'm going to go with saddle. Or biprumbia shebepia, or the bit in its mouth. Or bezug shebetzavara, or the bell on its neck. Right? These are all normal things that a shor has. And if it walks down the street and causes damage with them, you'd be chayav as a tolda of regel. Now, the question is that like the av or not like the av? Says the Gemara, Maishna regel. Why would this be any different than the av of regel? What are the qualifications for av of regel? Hezeko matsoi. It's common to cause damage because it's just walking on its way. So, right, it doesn't require any special action. Ume moncha ushmirato alecha, and you own it, and you're supposed to watch it. Hachanami, so these toldot also. Hezekon matsoi, right? Every cow's got a bell. So you got to watch out for that bell. So it's common. And mimoncha shmiratan alecha. So why wouldn't it be the same category as the av? Ella says, well, you're right. Tolda de regel is also keregel. So just to clarify, tolda of Shane, tolda of what's Karen is like Karen. Tolda of Shane is Shane. Tolda of regel is keregel. So what was Rav Papa referring to? Which tolda is not like the av? Says the Gemara, well, we're done with the shar, right? These are three categories of shar. But let's go to the next thing. The next thing is a bar, right? Right? The Torah introduces a concept that if you make a hole in the ground, and an animal walks by or whatever and falls into it and dies, you have to pay, right? So that's bar. And a tolda of bar would maybe not be chayav like bar. Now, says, what's a tolda de bar ma'iniyu? What's a category of what's a not the av of bar, but is a tolda? So we're going to see later that in order for something to be considered a bar, it has to have fatal potential. It has to be something that if an animal fell into, it could die. And the Gemara later on will say that's something that is 10 tfachim deep, which is around, I guess, 3 or 4 feet, right? But if you dig a little ditch in the ground that's 1 tefach deep, that's not considered to be a bar. You're not chayiv. We'll discuss it more exactly if you're chayiv anything, but it's not considered to be a bar. So maybe the av is a bar that's 10 tefachim, and a tolda is a bar that's 9 tefachim that can cause damage, but not as severe damage, right? It says maybe ilema, you're going to say av is 10, right? Av is a bar that's 10 tefachim, and tolda is tisha, is a bar that's 9 tefachim. That's not, remember, av is something that's written, and lo tisha aktivi, v'lo asar aktivi. Torah never says 10 or 9. Torah just says the animal falls into the bar and dies. It says where, but that's what it says. Halukasha. Torah says the animal dies. So the animal who falls into a bar dies. The Kimluhu the Rabbanan had experience in Paskin that Asara Avdan Mita Tisha Nizikin, right? Avdi. Mita Lo Avdi. That if an animal falls into a bar that's 10, it can die. It doesn't always, but it can. But if it falls into a bar that's 9, it can never die. It only can get damaged. It can't die. Says Gemara, but sof. ze av l'mitav, ze av l'nizakin. But sof, right? If the animal doesn't die, it's still an av for damage. You still cause damage to the animal by it falling into the bar. So even if it was 9 tvachim, it's still a bar. Ella, you know what the tolda of bar is? Rosa? A knife. Avno, a stone, or sakino, umasao, shenichan reshut rabim. Things where instead of digging down into the ground, let's say you left a knife in the middle of the road and someone came and stepped on that knife, right? That's a bar because it's not a hole, but it's a it's a hazard, right? And so that's a tolda of bar because it's chayav for you leaving something that damages other people. So says dummy, I don't get it. What kind of object are we talking about? If you made the knife hefker and you didn't own it anymore, then you are chayav. But bein the Rav, bein the Shmuel, which is a machlokes we're going to discuss about later, hainu bar. That's exactly a bar. There's no difference between a knife which sticks up and a bar that sticks down, right? They both cause damage. Now the interesting thing is, right, that if you dig a hole in public, you don't own that hole, right? If you dig a hole in your yard, you do own that hole, but it's not your problem if someone comes and walks into it. If you dig a hole in public, you don't own the hole, right? So the definition of bar is that it's something that you don't own, but that you made. But if you take your knife and you stick it in the public, you still own that knife if you didn't make it hefker. So Ida lo hefkerinu, says the Gemara on the top line of Gimel and Bet, then why are you chayav for that? Well, then it's a machloket. Shmuel says, even though you own it, it's considered to be a bar, and so it's the exact same halacha of bar. Why would this be a tolda? Ila Rav, who says that it's not considered a bar, but you know what a knife is in public? It's the ox, it's the goring of an ox. Because basically it's your intent to do damage. So either Rav, Damakula Mishoro Lamanu, we learn this out from a shor, then you're chayiv v'hainu shor, right? So either way, why would this be a tolda? Ma'ishna bar shekain tchilat asiyato l'nezek, right? What defines a bar? The moment you dig that bar, it's a hazard. By a knife, the same thing. The moment you put your knife in public, or you put your stone in the middle of the street, that's a hazard, right? And where am I? Tchilatan asiyato l'nezek, u'mimoncha shmiratan alecha, and you have to protect that thing. So haninami. So too, a knife or a rock or something in Reshut Harabim, tchilat asiyatan l'nezek, when you put it down there, it can cause damage. U'mimoncha shmiratan alecha, and therefore you should be chayav. Says well, you're right. El tolda debar kibar. So we've got 4 already, right? We had 3 cases of shar, Karen, Shane, and Regel. The case of bar, and all of these we've decided the tolda is the same as the av. So there's only one left. What's the one left? Aish. We call hever, right? The only thing left is fire. You cause damage through fire. Says the Gemara, it must be Chikamar of Papa. We're 8 lines from the top. Atolda de ma'aveh. Oh, one second. You're right. What about ma'aveh? I agree. There's a 4th case in our mission of ma'aveh. The question is, what is ma'aveh? So what is ma'aveh? Well, says the Gemara, well, ma'nihu. We don't actually know what that is. Ila Shmuel, if it's Shmuel is going to say, we're going to have this later today. Hopefully we'll get there. Then ma'aveh is shame. Ma'aveh is another form of shor. At the Mishnah said shor, which refers to Karen, and ma'aveh, which refers to eating. Well, we already said that Shane told her the Shane is Kishain, right? Ho Kimna told her the Shane Kishain. Ila Rav, now Rav's going to say later today that ma'aveh refers to a human, not to an animal. Rav Damar ma'aveh ze Adam. So by an Adam, remember, there's no avot in toldot. My avot and my toldot itbei. Says Gemara, what do you mean? Why are there no avot in tolda? Why do you say an av is where a person punches someone else in the face, and a tolda is where a person is fast asleep and they punch someone in the face while they're sleeping?
Isn't anything a person does?
The chitema av, the av of a human is ni'er, if you're awake and you hurt someone. Tolda is yashan, you're asleep and you hurt someone. Vatznan, but thankfully some of us have learned the Mishnah later in the Masechet. Adamu ad olam. There's no a person is always guilty, always responsible. Bain error, bain yashem, whether you're awake or asleep. Ella, you know what a tolda of a person is? If you spit. If you don't use your physical body, but you are kicho v'neo, which means like I think it means that well, definitely means spit and like nostrils, whatever that is, right? Sneezing. So says for 1 second. I don't get it. How did you cause damage by spitting on someone? Hechidam. If you spit at someone or sneezed on someone and caused damage as it went, because I guess it pained them, then that's like punching them. Why is it any different if I punch you with my hand or if I sneeze on you? Kocho havi. It's your direct power, and therefore it's a person, right? What are you saying? It's where I spit onto the ground. There's now a puddle. Someone walks over it and trips. If it's after it dropped on the ground and you then fell on it, then that's a bar, right? That's the equivalent to a bar because you basically put something on the ground that caused damage. Bein the Rab, bein the Shmuel, I know bar. Ellis says you're right. Mar says whatever ma'aveh is, whether it's Shane or it's Adam, tolda de ma'aveh ke ma'aveh. And the last case in our Mishnah is Heveh, right, which is Eish. The Kamma of Papa, a tolda de Eish. That tolda of Eish is the one thing that Rav Papa said is not like the Av of Eish. Now remember, fire is where you light a fire and it goes in and burns someone else's house or their field or their cow, right? What is a tolda of fire? How do you have a tolda of fire? What's your idea? Okay, we'll see in the Gemara. What's the tolda de Eish my nihu? Ilema, maybe it means where you left your even, your stone, your sakino, your knife, or your masao, your bundle of precious weights, let's say, she'enichan berosh gago, right? You left them on the edge of your roof, right? Because why wouldn't you be doing that? And along came a wind, and it blew your knife off the roof. And there happened to be a poor animal walking underneath, and the knife fell and killed the animal, or a person, or whatever, right? V'naflu beruach mitsuya, right? It was a wind that was expected, meaning you were negligent, essentially. You should have expected this to fall off the roof. V'hezeko, and it caused damage. So that is a tolda of fire, right? Because your knife is like a fire. Just like a fire goes from where you started and it burns at a far distance, your knife, you left it on the roof, you left it somewhere where the wind can carry it, just like it carries a fire. And so that seems like a tolda of Eish. Very interesting, right?
Yeah.
It says we're 1 second. I don't understand. But how did it hurt the person? If it hurt the person as it fell, right, meaning it came sliced down and killed the person, then that's exactly a fire. Who cares if the fire is a knife or the fire is oxygen or whatever fires are, right? Plasma, or the fire is a fire. Hainu Eish, you should be chayav, right? Why is that Eish? Because Maishna, what is unique about Eish? The koach acher me'uravba, right? A fire is something that on its own cannot kill someone unless there's wind, right, or force that moves the fire. But by building a fire and leaving it to the elements, you are chayav, because although there's a koach acher me'uravban, u'mimanchash miratan alecha, so that's what makes you chayav. So the same thing is true about a knife that's blown by the wind, right? Because the knife is blown just like the fire is blown. Hani nami, koach acher murav ben. There's another force, meaning a wind. Ella, we're back to where we started. Tolda de eish keish. Okay, so we've gone through the whole Mishnah, right? And we found every single case. Keren, Shane, Regel of Ashar, Mave, which might mean something, fire, Aish, and Bar. All of them, Tolda is the same. So when in the world did Rav Papa say that a Tolda is not like the Av? Says the Gemara, we're halfway down, Gimel Amud Bet, V'chi ka'amar Rav Papa is referring to Tolda de Regel kiregel. Whoa. Tolda de Regel, we just proved earlier today, if you came to Daf Yomi, that Hokimna told the regel karegel. Says where we're referring to a whole different kind of regel. We now should be experts in the last day and a half of all kinds of damage. But there's one kind that we haven't addressed yet. This is a very exciting kind. I just want to clarify for everyone. Don't think this is your only chance, because we're going to have another 100 pages where we go through 100 dapim to go through all this. But what is the halacha, which we're going to have in a week and a half, 2 weeks? It's something called Chatzi Nezek Srorot. There's a halacha of something called srorot, right? You have an animal walking down the road, it kicks a pebble, and the pebble goes
Kill someone.
and kills someone, but the pebble goes and breaks your window, right? So the question is, are you chayav for that? Because that's not shame, right? Didn't get any benefit doing it. It's not regel, because regel means you actually stepped on something and broke it.
Isn't it grandma?
Here, you didn't step on something and break it. You kicked something that went and broke something else. It's not Karen because you didn't have intent, essentially, to go and cause the damage. The Gemara is going to say later that you are chayav for tzrorot, and it's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Okay? But that's a halacha we're going to say later. And in fact, you're chayav only chatzi nezek. Chatzi nezek tzrorot, says the Gemara, I'm reading inside now at the start, halfway down, a little more than halfway down. It's referring to chatzi nezek tzrorot. Excuse me. The fact that you are chayav half nezek by tzorot dehochata gemirila. That is halacha l'Moshe Misinai, and it doesn't have the status of regel. By regel, you would pay. It's not, it does have the status, but it's not the av of regel. The av of regel is when you step on something. The tolda is halacha l'Moshe Misinai of chatzi nezek tzorot. V'amai karele tolda de regel. What implication does it have that you called it a tolda de regel? L'shalem min ha'aliyah. Remember our Mishnah, the last words in our Mishnah were, Rosa, last words in our Mishnah were that you have to pay nezek b'meitav haaretz. You have to pay the best property, right? If I owe someone $1,000, I can't pay in bad land. I have to pay in high quality land. So the same thing is true about chatzi nezek tzorot. Even though it's not regular nezek, it's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai, you've got to pay the same way you would pay with regular nezek, which is with good land. And that's the chiddush of Rav Papa. It's a wonderful, beautiful chiddush, but it's not so clear. It says the Gemara, Hami Bai Rava. Rava asked this question later. The Bai Rava, Chatzi Nezek Tzorot, when you have to pay half damage for some damage caused by kicking stones, do you pay migufo mishalim from the body of the animal? Meaning, if I broke a $10,000 window and the animal's worth $100, I only pay $100. O min ha'aliyah mishalim, or do you have to pay from good quality land? So you just said that the whole purpose of Rav Papa is to tell you that you have to pay from good land. Says, well, yeah, Rava mibayle. Rava wasn't sure of the halacha. Rav Papa b'shitale. Rav Papa said, I know the halacha. It's that you have to pay from land. You have to pay from good quality, and that's why he said that the toda is not like the av. Says the Gemara, well, according to Rava, that it remains an open question. Amai karele told her to regel. So then what implication does it have to say that an animal that walks along and kicks a stone and causes damage is chayav, halach l'Moshe Misinai, that's why you're chayav. But why are we calling it a tolda de regel? What does it have to do with regel? Says the Gemara, is a whole nother halacha, and that is the potra b'reshut harabim. We're going to discuss again later that regel is only chayav if it's in your own reshut, or not in your own reshut, but the person's reshut. Meaning, if an animal is walking through a reshut harabim and causes damage, that's not on the animal. That's on the person who left their stuff in the middle of the street, right? It's only if an animal walks into someone else's reshut, right? And remember, the pasuk says ubi'er b'sedei acher. It causes damage in someone else's field, not in a public place. The same thing would be true about tzrorot, that you are not chayav for tzrorot. If, let's say, your animal kicks pebbles and they go into Reshut Rabim and cause damage, you're not chayav for that. And that's why we said that this halacha l'Moshe Misinai is a tolda of regel. It really is not, because it's not the same halacha as regel. From regel, you would not be chayav for kicking tzrorot, for kicking pebbles, right? Because regel is only direct damage. But we call it regel because we want to say the halachot are very similar to regel. And so that is the purpose of Rav Papa. And in the last 2 pages, we actually reviewed all the fundamentals of all these 7 different types of damage, right? 3 types of shor, a type of bar, and a type of aish, which is 5, and then maybe a 6, so 6 types. The 6th thing we had in our Mishnah was hama'aveh v'hahever. Ask the Gemara, which you referenced earlier, 2 dots, my ma'aveh. What is, remember, the Torah said shor, bar, ma'aveh, and hever. Shor we know, bar we know, hever means fire. What is ma'aveh? Says Rav, Amar ma'aveh ze adam. Ma'aveh refers to a human who damages somebody else. Shmuel says ma'aveh ze Hashem. It's referring to an animal that eats food that it likes. Rav Amar ma'aveh ze adam dichtiv, because the pasuk says, very interesting pasuk, Amar Shomer, this is a pasuk in Yeshayahu, the watchman said, Ata boker v'gam la'ila, the morning and night have passed, Im tiva'ayun, if you want to know what's happening, bayu, ask questions. Now clearly the only thing asking questions is a human, right? So this ba'ayan, ma'aveh, must be referring to a human, not an animal. Shmuel says ma'aveh is referring to shein. A ma'aveh refers to an animal that eats food that it likes. Dichtiv, because the pasuk says in Ovadia, Eich nachbesa achbesu Esav. How do we find Esav? Niv'u metzponav. We expose its hidden parts, right? My mashona, what exactly does that mean? Kedim Rav Yosef, Ichtin itbalish Esav, right? Where do we cover Esav? Itgalin matranui mat miroi. When we reveal his mat miroi, right? And that is referring to, I forgot why Rashi says here, that is referring to shein. That's referring to revealing basically the teeth, the mouth of something. So therefore you see that's referring to, sorry, not the mouth, not teeth, I take it back. Referring to revealing what's eaten, right? Because the thing gets processed basically and gets eaten when you use shein, when you use it to eat something, right? So teeth basically, and it is, like I said earlier, teeth are sometimes revealed, sometimes hidden. You can bury your teeth, you can cover your teeth, and therefore the thing that's open and revealed refers to teeth, and therefore refers to damage caused by teeth of an animal. Now, it says in Gemara, Rav, my time along with Shmuel. Shmuel brought this beautiful pasuk from Avadia that the word ma'aveh refers to teeth. Why doesn't Rav like that pshat? Amar lecha, well, because miktani niv'eh, doesn't say niv'eh, it says ma'aveh, implying you're doing the action. Ushmuel my time along with Rav. Amar lecha miktani bo'eh, which again would refer to the action. So it's not so clear. Says the Gemara, 5 lines from the bottom, 6 lines from the bottom, a very practical question. Michti. Kroi lo kamar daiki lo kamar daiki, right? Clearly there's 2 psukim that use the word ma'aveh to refer to either teeth or humans. So, and it's not clear exactly what our mission refers to. So Rav and Shmuel are smart people. They know that this can refer to either of these possibilities. Why did one say it refers to one and one say it refers to the other, right? Rav my time alo amar Shmuel. So we're going to start this way. Why didn't Rav like what Shmuel said? Remember, Shmuel said that ma'aveh refers to the teeth of an animal eating food and causing damage. Why didn't Rav like that? Says the Gemara, where am I? Tana, because the first word in our Mishnah, or the first category in our Mishnah, was shor. So you already said a cow, right? So that presumably means shor, that kol mili de shor. So presumably in the word shor is included shein, right? So therefore, why would ma'aveh come to tell you shein? Says Rav, it must come to tell you a person, right? You're right. That's a very good point. Shmuel nami hatana shar. According to Shmuel, why would you have a second verse, a second word in the Mishnah to tell you shein if you already said shar? Amar Rav Yehuda, because look, Tana shar is referring to karno. Shar is referring to a shar that causes damage with its horn. Umaveh is referring to a shar that causes damage with shino. And in fact, that's exactly what the Mishnah is saying. Lo hachikamar, lo re'i ha-keren, right? The thing that makes a keren chayav is not the same as a shein. Because by keren, ein hanala hazeko. The animal gets no benefit from causing damage. It just is destructive. It's just causing damage. But that's not the same as kurei hashein, sheyesh hanala hazeko, which in fact gives you damage. And further, top of Daf Daled, you go the opposite way. Lo re'i hashein, in shein, ein kavanat hazik. The animal doesn't want to cause damage. It just is hungry. It wants to eat the potatoes or eat the watermelon. And it's not kirei hakeren shekavanato lahazik. And so maybe, and we're going to stop here because it doesn't really stop for a long time. But Shmuel says that it's intelligent for our Mishnah to have two different categories of shar because they're very different. One is keren, which means an animal is intent to cause damage and gets no direct benefit from it. The other is Shane, where an animal doesn't necessarily want to cause damage, but wants to eat things and gets benefit. I would not have known, if you told me one was Chayav, I would not have known the other is Chayav because they're very different. I might have thought either only Shane or only Karen. And therefore the Mishnah had to say both. The Gemara tomorrow is going to start trying to understand why it's not a Kal V'chomer. That if you're Chayav, even when you get no benefit, you for sure should be Chayav if you get benefit, right? So we will discuss that tomorrow. From the second line on Daf Daled. Yasher Koachal, this is very tough stuff. Hope everyone gets it and keeps getting it.
Wow.
Stays for
It's
more.
definitely a different world.
It's also the beginning. So as these terminologies become more familiar.
Right.
again,
No,
it'll be
100%. But still, it's like it's really completely different. So
100% different. Yeah.
It helps. This is not my first time through it.
yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good
I have a
night.
practical question, though.
I'm sorry?
Not- what about an automobile? The Posca must have dealt with this at some point.
Would say that again. Sorry, what about a what?
What about an automobile?
I don't think I can assure you the Gemara does not bring it up, but we're going to see a lot
The
of
Gemara
details.
doesn't bring it up, but the contemporary Posca must have addressed it.
No, I absolutely. But don't worry, we're going to get into a lot of these discussions in the Gemara.
Okay.
Because obviously a shore can cause damage in many different ways, right? It can do it by goring, it could do it derech hilucha. We'll discuss it all.
All right. Yasher Koach.
Have a good night. Shavua tov.
Good job.